Howdy doodly, welcome to the, I can't believe I started a podcast like that. I'm going to turn you guys on. Anyway, so I don't know what to do. Welcome back to the Quarantine Daily Podcast. We had an amazing episode that we released yesterday, answering some of your questions that you submitted, or some of your... Oh, we asked you a question. What is the biggest food, fitness and fat loss challenge you're facing right now? And I've got my panel of experts that we're going to answer these questions. Did some good ones yesterday. If you haven't listened to that, stop right now. Go back, listen to it. And then if you have, crack on with today's. So we've lost a member of our panel. Are you sad about that, Ricky?
I'm very sad.
Yeah.
Do we know where she is?
Remember the Jedi zapped her away.
Use the Force.
So we've lost Paula today for this episode. She's had to duck away and get some stuff sorted, ready for her meditations and stuff. If you've not listened to those meditations, you should do. They're really good, especially because they're centered around beating anxiety and that kind of stuff. So check it out. So I've got Ricky. Say hello, Ricky.
Hello.
Anything you want to say welcome-wise?
Oh, howdy doodly, I think it says it all, really, doesn't it?
And we've got the resident Chewbacca's better-looking sister, Nick.
Howdy doodly, everyone.
Okay, so we're going to go straight into it now because we're going straight into it. I don't know what else to say, really. So my questions today is from starting off from Cheryl, and she's basically what she's put is 4 p.m. nibbles, 5 p.m. wine. It sounds like a really good routine that she's got worked out there, and weight slowly creeping back on. So that's kind of what I want to start off by talking about, and then we're going to go into talking a bit about self-belief. Right, who's gonna start us off today?
Well, I'm happy to start on that one. I think thinking about it now is the good part about Cheryl's question there is that she's actually already identified the issues. So she's already said, look, I know these are the two issues in the weight creep. So that's a big part of the tackling it sorted. You know what you need to fix. So how do you move forward with that? Well, then you go, with 4 p.m. nibbles, what can I do with that, which is obviously becoming a habit, to change things? So easy things are to keep the nibbles but do healthier nibbles, or to change the nibbles to something completely different, change the habit for something completely different that you might find a little bit healthier. I don't know, what could be, go for a walk at 4 o'clock, have a bath at 4 o'clock.
Listen to a podcast.
Listen to a brilliant podcast with a panel of absolute legends at 4 o'clock, whatever it is. But I think that's probably the easiest way to start tackling an issue, especially once you've already identified the issues yourself. Yeah.
And, we teach at camp that habit predominantly is made up of 3 parts, 4 parts depending on what you read, but let's say 3 parts to start with. One is the trigger, then there's the routine that you run, and then there's the reward. And it's quite clear that your trigger, well, it's not clear what your trigger is, but it's around 4 p.m. Maybe it's a time thing, maybe it's a location thing, maybe it coincides with another event that goes on in your family, whatever it is, I don't know, but there's clearly a trigger there for nibble time, and a trigger there for wine time. The reward we can see is this unhealthy overconsumption of nibbles or whatever. That's what we need to change. We can't often we can't change the trigger, and we can't change the reward. What we get, we want to keep the reward the same, but we need to change the routine, like Ricky said, and same for the wine. Nick, you look poised to.
No, I was thinking what you were saying there about. It is identifying about that. What are you actually getting out of it? Is it just a habit you've fallen into that you're not happy with? Is it serving you in any way? Is it a social? Is part of it a social thing? It's the sort of 5 o'clock when everyone's home from work and it's a glass of wine time, or is it something that you need to actively think a bit more and go, well, what am I getting out of this? Is it I suppose not at 5 o'clock unless you've got really, really disciplined bedtime routine. Is it like the kids are in bed, time for a glass of wine? So what you're effectively saying is it's my time, and I've got into this habit that means a glass of wine to help me relax. But my time could now be do a yoga tutorial online. It could be go and have a nice bath. It could just mixing it up. Or is it actually the sensation of sitting down and having, I was going to say a nice cold drink, but it might not be white wine. A nice warm drink, red wine. Sure. Sorry, I got distracted by thinking about wine there.
Yeah, I think the triggers would be quite easy to identify.
I would imagine that 4 o'clock's probably kids are home from school, or they've got to pick up the kids, got home, sorted out whatever you've done, and everyone's sort of settled time. That's probably why it's nibbles. Kids are here, we get a snack out, that's done. 5 p.m. is pretty traditional time for people to finish work. Maybe husband comes back or partner comes back from work. There's time when we have a glass of wine, or I start cooking dinner, so I'll crack open the wine. So there's it's quite easy things to like you say, it's an easy trigger to identify and to go, like, well, it's obviously that time. If you and she's already, like say, already identified it, it's 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And so therefore, what we would suggest, Cheryl, is that you focus on what the reward is, because we need to keep the reward the same. So, like Nick said, if it's you enjoy the taste, if it's a signal that the time is now your own, if it's like a big deep sigh of, oh, right, okay, now I can relax. We need to keep that the same and do a routine that gives you the same thing, but hasn't got a detrimental effect to your health. So that's good.
I think the other thing is you don't need to necessarily drop that habit entirely. You could just say, I'm only going to have nibbles and wine 3 times a week, twice a week. And on the other days initially, put in those new things and try all those new things. So you're not cutting off. If it is something that you find supportive, but just need to, know you need to cut down on, move about and kind of say, if you are drinking with other people, for example, say, we're not having a glass of wine until Thursday night. And we'll just, that's how we'll manage it, is that for these next couple of days, wine's out, but something else is being put in its place.
Yeah. And I think with all these things as well is there's a prompt that I want everyone to remember, and that is don't wade through treacle, right? Now, what I mean by that is when you're trying to change something, right, if you concentrate on the negative, it really is like wading through treacle. You are making it really hard. So if you're saying, don't drink wine, don't drink wine, don't drink wine, the way that your mind works is that you are constantly thinking about wine. And so, up to 5 times a second, and you're like, wine. Am I drinking wine yet? And it just gets like, sorry, I'll stop stuff
Right,
like
yeah.
that.
That's fine. I'm seeing a bottle of wine in front of me now. So I'm visualising it.
Yeah, and it becomes really, really hard. So what you got to do is you got to think about the outcome you want, and then concentrate on that, the positive rather than the negative. I've got to say that as a positive, with all the disruption that's going on in the world right now, there is no better time to swap some of your habits out. It really is the best time to be changing habits. It's like when you move house, and as you move house, like you don't know where things are in your kitchen cupboard. You've got to learn these new habits. You don't know where the light switches are.
Or wake up in the middle of the night to the loo and you walk down the stairs and you're like, oh, let's get in.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, with all this disruption going on, this really is the best time to do it. So let us know how you get on with that, Cheryl. Next one then, I'm not going to share the name because it is, I suppose it could be a little bit sensitive, and I don't want to butcher the name as well, in honesty. 2 words, self-belief. So this is a pretty big topic.
Yeah.
I think we all agreed that we would do a separate episode or a video or something around this. Nick, how much does self-belief play in people's results at boot camp?
Oh, I think it's major, but I think it's one of those things that takes time for people to start believing in themselves. I've almost lost count of the people I've met at camp, either when I was a camper or when I've worked here, who turn up and say, I can't do this, I can't do that, and you think, well, you've not even tried yet. Like people are like, oh, I can't run, I'm not a runner. And you think, okay, well, you're here for 12 weeks, so maybe we could build up to the running, maybe it'll happen eventually. And but yeah, it's something I find quite fascinating, and the way our brains will let us see the good in lots of other people, and sometimes people, when they then talk about relationships they have, that you think, I don't really know why you know what's going on here, because it sounds like you're the better person in this situation. But people who are putting themselves down constantly, can't see the good things that they have in themselves, can't believe that they'll be able to achieve different things, and it's a long process for some people of learning that they can either trust themselves or they can push themselves, but it does start with first a willingness that you can change. Because if you don't believe it's gonna be any different, it won't be, because your brain and everything's gonna stop you, even trying to do it properly. So you have to kind of focus, I think, on what the goal is for you. Where do you really want to be? How do you want to? More importantly, is not only how you want to feel, and work out how you move towards that. And step by step, believe in yourself and trust that you can do it, and trust that you'll push yourself, and know the majority of the time that you've loads of people around you who are supporting you, who want you to do well, and often you're the last person who'll believe it when you don't feel worthy.
The way I describe, you're saying they're step by step, and people often want like that switch, it's just gone, right, okay, all right, I'm a runner now, or I'm losing weight now, or I can lose weight now, or whatever. And very often, rarely does it happen. significant change in people happens in two ways. One is a highly charged, significant emotional event. This is why smokers suddenly stop smoking when they get told they've got cancer. And it's why, you know, suddenly people change the way they eat because their loved one dies of diabetes or something. You know, it's a significant emotional event. Now, you cannot replicate that, and you shouldn't try, you know, knocking off one of your family
Don't
members.
go around murdering people to lose weight.
You know, you
Need that
shouldn't
motivation
try.
again.
The other way, so that's one way. The only other way is repetition. You know, and just keep going at it, because fundamentally you need to change the way that you do stuff. And you know, the thing that I always remember is, you know, you're not going to go from I can't run to I can run. It's too big a step. You know, there's a whole load of learning and developing, and there's a whole load of changing the way that you vibrate and all this kind of deep metaphysical stuff that it's a shame Paula's not here, because she would have really explained that.
No, but you know, it is, like you said about repetition, it can even be not repeating the, you know, as in the activity of going running, not repeating that, but actually repeating to yourself that you can do it. So, you know, for people who've got a bit of time on their hands right now, go and look up things about affirmations and mantras, because, I mean, they're very short, simple phrases that you can repeat to yourself over and over during the day, or when you're doing certain activities, or write them on a Post-it note and stick them on bits around your house, which just remind you that you can do things. So one of mine from camp was I can go further, which you can split into two different sections. So there was the I can, if we were training, and I was kind of like, this is getting hard now, and my brain would just go, no, you can, just do it. And the other was, as I was getting fitter, was to go further. So that could mean a lot of things. So it was like I can go faster, I can physically go a longer distance, I can keep going, it wasn't just to exercise, it could be for anything. But people come up with these phrases, which obviously that as a phrase, I can go further, doesn't sound like anything to anybody else really. But for me, you know, that was one of the biggest, probably the biggest phrase that repeated in my head the entire time I was at camp, and still does. Like I've got different ones now I use too, but you know, you can just make them personal to you. And like you say, the more you repeat them, the more you'll believe them, and the more they'll become part of you. And instead of doubting that you want to run it, you think you can.
The more you repeat it, the more evidence you're going to find to support it. And then therefore the belief's going to get stronger.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. Similar to you said, you've got a lot of time on your hands at the moment. Take that time, and I always bang on about this in every podcast I think I've done with you, Craig, but RAS is such a huge thing in my world of development, of change. RAS, which is your reticular activating system, big tongue twister for you. It's just a part of your brain, and actually once you just watch a couple of YouTube videos, I'm not going to bang on it now because I've said it in every podcast ever. So just watch one of those.
Virtual boot camp, because
we can. There's a really cool little cartoon video.
That's the best one. Love that one.
Yeah, and it just explains what it is, and it's all about the repetition and the mantras and all how that all really works with your brain. And it's saying like it isn't some it's in the air, or aren't we all brilliant? It's actually, there is science to it. You know, you repeat something enough, you will believe it. So if you repeat to yourself something negative all the time, you'll become that negative thing. And then the same with positive. So you are completely and utterly in control of what happens to you in your life, within reason, obviously.
I think, you know, we all want that big, large leap to something completely different. And, you know, people see it as a switch. I often describe it more as a dial, where you turn the dial bit by bit every day. And you know, if to go from can't to can is too big a step, then you can break that down and you can go, you know, maybe I could. And then, you know, if you could, then maybe you would. And if you would, then maybe you should. And if you should, then maybe you will. Yeah. And if you will, maybe you are. You know, and there's a whole series of things there. But, you know, it's a perfect demonstration of like self-belief and how it affects you. You know, if you was walking across a living room and there was a coffee table in your way and you're like, oh, I can't get over that. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, maybe you could. Then what when you say that's like an absolute with a full stop. I can't. You know, there's no, the brain will not look for anything else. It's just like, okay, I can't accept that. Yeah. What's next? But if you go, well, maybe I could, the brain will then start to look of ways of getting around, over, under, whatever, around the coffee table, you know? And then if it's like, well, maybe I should, well, now we're building a bit of determination of like, you know, hang on, you know, don't turn around from this and walk away. Let's do something about it. And then, you know, it's almost like a step to the side or whatever. And then suddenly you find yourself walking past the coffee table and you're cracking on, you know? And so it's really basic.
Yeah.
Demonstration, but you know, this is how it works.
Good, people listen to this. If you can think about whatever it is you're moving towards, would you stop moving towards it if I plonked a coffee table in front of you? No, you'd find a way around it. You know, a coffee table's nothing. the first step you've got to take in this process, when you look back on it, will be nothing. It's taking that first push and just getting it done.
I think that leads on to your why, because you can put a coffee table in front of anyone, and it depends what's the other side of it as to whether they'll get over it or not. I think so. If you put the other side of it, their newborn baby, they're going to do whatever they can to get across that table. But if you put the other side of it, I don't know, a glass of water, are they going to try that hard? Probably not. They'll just walk the other way and go and get a glass of water somewhere else. But it's about how big that thing, that reason the other side is. So unless you've got that reason why, that big why that we talk about at camp a lot, then you're not going to be motivated to go and get it and get over the table. So it's finding that as well, which is super important.
I think it's also handy to try and understand where these beliefs came from, because we're born with two fundamental fears or bits of programming, and so everything else therefore is learned behaviour. So where have you learnt these beliefs?
Yeah.
And Rick, did you have self-beliefs before you come to camp, and where did some of them come from? Same for you, Nick, really. I suppose we've all got them, but
I think before I came to camp there's a few obvious things, not to get too deep because we can get lost in our self-reflection here, but things like I'll never be skinny, I'll never be look how I want to look, those sort of beliefs were definitely in my mind before I came to camp, and now it's not so much that I've gone, I will be skinny, I will look exactly how I want to look. It's more that I can, and it's down to me to achieve it. So it's much more that I've taken control of it than I've necessarily completely changed the belief. Well, I haven't got rid of that belief, actually. I've not even changed it. I've just got rid of it completely, and I've now got new beliefs. I think that's quite an easy sort of example for me that I can think of on the spot.
Where did that belief come from, do you reckon? Was it just
I think it was just the
repetition?
Yeah, lots of years of just going, I don't look how I want to look today, or I don't, I'm not thin today, and I haven't, I've been going to the gym and I've been eating I did air quotes, that doesn't really help on a podcast, but I've been eating healthier, at least I think I thought I was, and I wasn't thin within a week, so why bother, kind of thing. It was one of those things, and you kind of just, and then you go, right, okay, I'm fat, that's it, that's me now, I'm here. And I think especially the sort of months before I came to camp, which again, if you watch any of the other podcasts I've been on, or Miriam's documentary, you'll see there was a lot of issues that led up to me becoming to camp.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that.
Paula's not here though, so there's no one less of you to bully me about this.
You just went straight into that.
I know.
Definitely some workplace bullying coming on this podcast. In a minute. Anyway,
I don't know why I brought it up there. Yeah, but I talked about a lot of the reasons I came to camp and what led me here. In the few months before, I was definitely in a definite shame spiral, a train of pain, whatever you want to call it, where I was just, everything was just no, worse. And it wasn't until I literally met with you and Paula before coming to camp that kind of had that moment where it clicked. I had a lot of really great people in my life trying to get me out of there and support me and talk me through it and get me through things, and the people that contacted you to get you to come and meet me in the first place were incredible and hugely part of why I got here, for a lot of reasons. But yeah, until I actually literally sat down and after the conversation me and you and Paula had about what camp was, what the program was, what you would do, and whether you were willing to take me, because you wanted to obviously get to know me before you accepted me onto the program. It didn't really click until then that actually there's that little peak of light coming through the corner in the tunnel now.
So I'm going to give you, just to sort of end this, then we're going to move on. We're going to talk about balancing conflicts or conflicting priorities in a minute. But the final thing, one really, really easy thing that you can do right now is just to, whenever you find yourself stating, because language will tell you everything about your self-belief, whenever you find yourself stating an absolute belief to you, it's just to add the word yet on the end of it. So if you say like, I can't run yet. And I can't lose weight yet, or I can't get control these nibbles yet, and the yet is that metaphorical step to the side of the coffee table, looking for a new route, something else, and keep searching, because one thing I know, having done some pretty crazy adventures all over the world, is that human beings have got everything they need, every bit of determination, motivation, whatever. They just need to learn to tap into it. So it's there. You just got to keep going and keep at it. And the first part of self-belief is to understand and fundamentally have faith in the fact that you can change, and give enough effort, and with the right guidance, you can do it. That was good, wasn't it?
Oh, that's brilliant, like that.
You can have it. I might just cut that clip out and do
Yeah.
you can have it. I might just cut that clip out and get a little thing. So next one then from David. We all know David. Balancing my conflicting priorities, which is a weird one because this is my thing with priorities. You know, we talk about priorities like there's more than one, but priority is like when you look at like the origins of the word, it's like the most important thing. Well, how can we have priorities? You can't. You know, so that's. You know, a bit of a thing that we've tried to hack the word priorities by having like more than one.
Yeah,
I work long
hours.
hours.
Just kind of acknowledges that people do have a lot of different things going on, you know, and it is sometimes difficult to go. And I used to, I mean, this is one thing I used to do was I would constantly get to a point where my fitness and weight were better than they had been, and then work would ramp up, stuff would happen, and I would immediately drop going to the gym at lunchtime so I could carry on working. Then I started coming into work earlier, so I didn't do anything in the morning. Then I stayed late, so I then didn't even make a healthy dinner, and it spiraled from there. But that, again, was me getting my priorities wrong because I didn't prioritize things retrospectively as I should have done.
But I think my point, and I've got a little post-it note here that kind of paints the picture, is that, yeah, we've all got multiple priorities. These are my priorities. But the thing is, because of time, very rarely can we actually work on one priority or more than one priority at the same time. You know, it's time-based, it's contextual. And then what I do is I organise my day the night before. I'm showing you guys on here. Each one of those initials corresponds to a priority. And in that moment in time, that is my priority, a single priority for that time. And just to kind of, I know, again, this don't work very well.
That's fine.
So, you know, I prioritise an hour of my day for coaching, the coaching stuff that I do. I prioritise an hour of my day for marketing work that I've got to do. 2 hours of my time to prepare for my world record challenge that has been freaking scuppered by this. Anyway, 3 hours of my time for my, you know, these podcasts, these videos, and these what I call organic content, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, 2 hours of my day for for exercise and for relaxation and recovery and all that kind of stuff.
I like that though, because I think a lot of people don't split it up. They kind of know what their priorities are. But yeah, actually sort of scheduling them in or saying this is the amount of time I have for this today. And obviously there may then come a week when you're like, do you know what? I don't need to do quite so much marketing this week, but what I want to do is more physical, training, or actually I feel I want an extra hour at home this week. So how do I reassign that time, rather than I think what lots of us do is chase our tails, get to the end of the week, panic about because we've not got some stuff done, take it home and do it at home. So we're then not having that balance, which means we're not resting properly, which means we get stressed out, which for a lot of us means then we make bad food or drink choices, which means we're spiraling back around to where we don't want to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, also having known you for a little while now, Craigo, you do this, you've always done this scheduling of your day the day before, and you always say, is there anything anyone needs me for? And you put it in if you need it, and it's done. But if the next day somebody goes, oh, can you just, you're like, no, I can't, because I told you I was doing this, I'm doing that. And that's really important. I think that's a huge part of why it works so well for you as well, is that you're willing to say no when people are asking too much of you or asking an unfair thing of you, because you've said, I've scheduled my day now. If you wanted to 10 minutes, then if I have it, obviously I'll try and fit you in. You're not unflexible and horrible about it. But if you go, well, no, I've got 11 till 12, I've got this. So if you can fit around my schedule, then we'll try and work it. But you've got to be strict with it. And that's all for yourself, obviously, and that's a good thing. It's one of those things we talk about at camp of positive selfishness kind of thing, where you go, yeah, this is selfish, but it's not selfish in a horrible way. It's selfish in this is for me, this is why I do it, and it's what's going to benefit me the most.
Yeah, and I think the more you do that, the more people recognise that. So I work with a coach of my own on Tuesday night, and now everyone at camp knows Tuesday nights are non-negotiable for me. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything work-wise, because that Tuesday, that's my night, and I do my own thing. And it's not we can talk her out of it, or we can see if we can maybe get her to do something. It's like, no, from 6:30, don't even talk to me. But generally, that's my time. I'm doing my own thing. I obviously do get other time during the week. I'll make that very clear in case my mum listens.
Tuesday night's the only night that Nick allowed to do anything that's not work or friend related.
Just trying looking for another example of here how I work on priorities and that, but I can explain it in a minute. But what I will say is that health is one of those things where if you don't work on it now on your terms, you will have to work on it on someone else's terms.
Yep.
You know, health will bite you in the ass, and therefore you need to be making time for it, and it needs to be a priority. You can't, you know, everything has a cost. I have this big thing where, you know, everything's got a cost, and you can't have all the pleasure and none of the pain. The universe just will not allow you to do that. So, for example, you know, let's take smokers, for example, and this might sound pretty, sorry, Rick, but you're doing something about it. It might sound pretty cold.
It's fine.
It's pretty cold, this. But there is a shit ton of smokers that are shitting their pants right now with this virus. They're shitting their pants. In my mind, I don't want anybody to suffer, and I certainly don't want anyone to pass away. But you cannot have 30 years of instant pleasure and it not to have a cost. You see what I'm saying with that? It's like,
absolutely.
you know, you have had all the fun, excitement of those cigarettes. With food, you've got all the fun and excitement of that instant gratification from food. Well, everything's got a cost. And this was coming, like.
100%,
you know?
yeah.
So, so I can get on my arse.
I think you're not a fan of smokers in any way.
No, it's
which
not.
is no, but not. But you're fair. I think that's one of those things where it's not.
It's
not a negative thing though.
Yeah, it's not that smoking. People can do whatever they want, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they've got to prepare to pay the price.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's the thing. And a lot of people aren't like. It's like, you know, oh, poor me. I've done this, and I developed COPD, and I've got all this. Of course you have.
Yeah,
What did you expect? You know, you obviously didn't consider the second and third hand consequences of what you're doing right now. So
I think like a personal example for me, not smoking related, this weight related, is that I was very fortunate for a lot of years. You know, I'm just turned 30 last week. Not I like to admit it, but I for a lot of years, my whole life I was overweight. I'd eat what I wanted. I would, well, you know, for whatever reasons, I would exercise, but it didn't really matter because everything I was eating was crap most of the time. But I got away with it. You know, I've never had diabetes, touch wood. My blood pressure before camp and everything was, well before camp, was all fine. I've never had high blood sugar. I've never had any of the weight-related issues that I should have had at my size and my level of, you know, eating or whatever. And then came to camp, hadn't really had any kind of major health checks for a long time because I didn't see the point. And obviously you guys were like, we need you to get checked out because liability and all those things, which is sensible. And I went to the doctors, had some checks, and it found out I had actually an underlying heart condition, which I never even knew about until I got those checks done. And then that's kind of that. It's that same thing as, you know, of course I fucking do. You know, I've literally plumbed myself with shit for 25, 30 years, whatever it is. And that's the, I don't want to say retribution because it sounds like some kind of godly act, but, you know, that is the scientific, you know, evidence. You know, you do something shit for that long, you get the instant reward of, I've eaten cake. Yeah, brilliant. I feel great. But after 30 years, I've got a heart condition now. And that is my fault. And I've got to live with that, but I am living with that. You know, I'm doing something about it. Like you say, as long as you take the ownership of the issue, then that's kind of fine. But if you sit there and go, oh, woe is me, you know, God, I've had all this fun and now, oh, God, I'm ill, I'm dying because of this. Well, yeah, but what did you expect? Like you say, I know it's horrible to say it, but it's true.
I guess the flip side of that, though, is for people who are listening to this, who are using, you know, now to be their time to change, is that, okay, yeah, you have on one side of the coin, you've got, you can slowly deteriorate your health and do things that aren't good for you. But the other side of that is that you can increase your health. You can work on it. And whilst it's not that instant gratification that some people want, and there are some people that are like, I want to be well, you can be instantly skinny, you can't be instantly fit. You know, if you go and get all the fat sucked out of you, you can be instantly skinny, but you won't have any sense of achievement, any sense of pride, any happy memories of doing it.
You won't fix the reason why you got fat in the first place.
Yeah, it's coming back, isn't it?
Yeah. So you know, there's whilst I think some people look at it and think, oh, it's going to take me ages, and it's going to take this and that, and you think, well, you know, all these, and it sounds a bit cliched, but you didn't get fat overnight. You won't get thin overnight.
No,
but
absolutely.
what you can do is get healthier. You can have happier memories. You can think of those all the times you achieved that. You can share that with other people. You can feel, you know, all the way you want to feel, but it just takes time and effort.
And some great positive examples of that from camp is we've had, I think, I've been at camp anyway in the last year and a half. We've had 3 different people come to camp with type 2 diabetes, and all of them have left without it. I can remember, yeah. So that's that. I know of 3 people come with serious type 2 diabetes. You know, regular checks, having to take all the whatever the necessary precautions are, I don't really know. But then they've left and they've been told you don't need to do any medications, you don't need to, you know, do regular checks anymore. You've not got diabetes, and that's incredible. So you can change things. Just
reading David's question at the end of it, which I probably should have thrown out, but I think this has been good. It's been valuable. He works long hours in a hospital, so that's a challenge at the moment. good effort, mate. On really is the
Yeah,
front line.
thank you.
People that are often forgotten and get a lot of shit for waiting times and stuff like that. They're crumbling NHS, but by God, you're fucking stepping up now, which is great. And don't make time for healthy eating or exercise. So I think, the exercise thing, like we've said already, that really is the catalyst. And if you're working in a hospital and you're constantly moving, that is exercise. We've come up with this idea in society now that exercise needs to be head off to the gym, or it needs to be separated from everything that we're doing. Fundamentally, we never had exercise, and we never had
just life,
overweight road workers because life was just a lot more active. Now we've got machines and all that. Now that's what I'm saying. If you're darting between wards, if you're constantly on your feet, you're probably doing enough exercise. We don't, unless you want to be a marathon runner, you don't have to be doing marathon training. And we get. But
I think the wording of David's question though there is kind of key, because he's saying I don't prioritize food. Well, why not? If your goal is to lose weight and feel healthier and eat better, then you need to change your priorities. And I'm afraid it's kind of as blunt as that you need to find that little bit of time that you've got to, whether it's that you prep food, whether it's that you've got the option to get some of these meal companies that send you healthy food straight to your door. But if you want to have an outcome of something, you have to go, right, well, how do I make this happen? How do I make this a priority?
It's tough though. I mean, shift, if he's working shifts, which probably
I'm not
is,
saying it's not. I'm not saying it's easy,
hard.
but I'm saying if you want something to be a priority, you've got to find a way to shift about what, if you must have other things in your life and you go, right, I'll put a little bit less time to that, or
I think that's key, is the little bit less, you know what I mean, and really start working on the little bit less, constantly turning the dial and
small choices, small choices. If you're having
build up slowly.
If you're having a syrupy latte every day, just change that to a black coffee. That's a really easy one.
Little changes. Right, good. This is good. Should we go for one more?
Yeah,
it's quite an easy one. One more, and then so here it is from Di. Di, we know well. Motivation and staying. I know everyone looks like I'm only. We know a million. Not a million Dies, but we know loads of Dies. You would know this person if I read out their surname. Okay, motivation and staying positive. This is it's a great topic to finish on. Let's just throw this out there straight away. Motivation. Everybody's got enough motivation. They've got more than enough. They're using it right now. It's just they're motivated to do the wrong freaking things.
100%.
So anyway, where do we go? Where do we go from here? Motivation and staying positive.
I think with staying positive, it's that you decide to. So I know that there would be people who say that I can be a bit ridiculously too positive sometimes, and that perhaps my positivity level, is a little bit off the scale sometimes. But that's not without. Ricky's now pulling a face at me. But that's not without practice. And it is that if you want to feel positive, you have to do things that make you feel positive. Interact with stuff that is more positive. So
look for it.
Yeah, you got to be like, well, what makes me happy? Does I can't think for example of head now. So does living in my house when it looks like a total tip make me happy? No. So what I actually need to do is get that sorted. And Ricky's smiling because he cleaned the coach house kitchen yesterday. It's immaculate.
I've been back 2 days and the kitchen was just, it wasn't that it was messy or dirty or anything. It was just that there was a lot of stuff in there because we'd all come back from home or whatever. And we were coming back for lockdown, and so there was just stuff in there and it wasn't organised, and the plates in the cupboards haven't been organised for weeks. And I couldn't even go to bed because I'm not an OCD person. I'm not that kind of person usually, but it was just that much of I just want to sort something out and have some organisation in life right this moment. So I literally just stopped to did the kitchen because I had to.
It was brilliant though.
It's good.
It was Tuesday because I was off meditation. I came back and the kitchen was immaculate. I loved it. And especially after the Lost podcast yesterday, we mentioned about moving around a bit more in general, and I made a comment about people taking the bins out. Even the bin had been taken out. It was great.
I think so. This morning I put my little. I do my daily motivation every day, and I got a private message. Obviously, I'm not going to share the name because they felt strong enough to message me privately. But it went. The thread was something along these lines: Craig, the rest of the world is going crazy, and I'm just loving my time at home, getting to spend time with my son, getting to do all these things, and the whole and I feel guilty about it. What do you what do you suggest? And my first of all, I was like, amazing. You're going to be my inspiration for today.
Absolutely.
The fact that she didn't post it publicly. Come in, Paula. You're all right. She's sneaking in like a bloody. The fact that she didn't post it publicly, as in look at me. It's which a lot of people are doing right now. She sent it privately, and my reply was, look, when this shit hit the fan, a load of jobs were lost. We lost a load of jobs, but a load of jobs were created. And the jobs that were created is this job centered around panicking. And everybody became professional panickers, and these jobs now have been taken up by journalists, the media, Facebook warriors, people just panicking about shit. But then there's a special group of people that realize those jobs have been taken. And the only jobs that are left are jobs to be confident, calm, to be leaders, to show people how to act and be positive and be grateful. And she'd snapped up one of those jobs, and that's, so be proud of it. Because some people see nothing but obstacles, and the very special select number of people, my throat's going, sounds like I was crying, but I'm not. Very special, very special group of people have decided that they're going to see nothing but opportunities, and
which is amazing.
Yeah. But I think that's how a lot of us will get through this, is to go, okay, we're all in a bad situation. The whole world's in a bad situation with this. But you can either choose to hide in your house full of fear, terrified something's going to happen and making other people more fearful around you, or you can go, okay, what are our options for today? Okay, we can go out once and go for a walk. Let's go and do that. We can make our home lovely for when we're in it. Let's do that. We can listen to positive stuff rather than constantly sit and listen to the news while they make up more and more stuff to make people frightened. Okay, obviously, I know this is sharing facts too, but the people I know who are sitting constantly watching the news, it's almost like they're feeding on their fears, feeding on everything that is causing more negativity, which isn't going to help at all. We talked the other day about how fear weakens your immune system. Obviously, it makes you feel miserable. So if you want to stay positive, do things to make you positive, and also don't feel guilty about being positive. No one should feel guilty that in a time of a shit situation, they're enjoying being with their family.
Yeah,
it just
makes no sense. It says a lot about the world, doesn't it? That people can feel ashamed of being happy.
I know.
That's horrible, isn't it? But I mean, for anyone who, you should really watch my podcast because it is brilliant. But I'll just say this is sort of a perfect example of being the moon. Remember,
yeah.
So just watch that, and then I'm just gonna leave that.
Drop that mic. Yeah. I think the thing to remember is that staying positive, being positive, looking for the positive. It is a practice. It's not a law. A law suggests you can't get it wrong, and there's a consequence if you get it wrong. With any practice, you're allowed a little bit of fudge. You're allowed to not be as positive today as you were tomorrow, and to make a few mistakes.
I was going to say that's perfect.
Just keep going.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon I went for a walk because I kind of realised that with as far as message Paul, it's kind of saying, I think with the adrenaline and the uncertainty of the last few days of what was happening and when it was going to happen, and then everything seemed to settle. And I couldn't think straight. Ricky asked me a question yesterday that it took me 5 attempts to try and answer, and it was a very, very basic question, and I had to ask him to then repeat the question twice, and he was just like, are you okay? And actually in the end I was like, I don't think I am. I was like, I either need to go to bed or I just need to go out and get some fresh air. So I ended up taking Winnie out for a nice long walk, and by the time I got back I was like, I do feel better. I do feel, but I just couldn't anymore. And I thought, well, I'm not going to sit about pretending to be super positive, pretending to be happy, when actually what I need is just a bit of space and a bit of time, and then go, right, I'm not that I was miserable, but I was just sort of neutral on things and very confused about how words worked.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Okay, listen, we want to finish up now. What do you mean yes? Who did yes?
Because it's time for Paul to do her meditation.
All right, okay. I thought you'd fed up.
No, let's do another one.
I'm going to ask Rick. I'm going to ask you for your closing statement.
My closing statement.
Yeah. So the big bit of advice that people can follow today. To end the podcast on. So what have you got for us?
Oh, there we go. I think the big thing. I think let's take it from the person who said message on Facebook. Let's find the positive in this crisis. Let's be the people we want to be, and let's spread it. Spread the love, spread the positivity.
Spread it. There it is. You heard it here on the Quarantine Daily Podcast. Spread it. Spread the love. Tomorrow we're gonna answer some questions about losing my tummy. I'm also going to talk about what else we got. Fitness in general. So getting fit enough to pass the police bleep test and all that kind of stuff. So some real good stuff coming tomorrow. So join us on the Quarantine Daily Podcast. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.